So my belief is that everybody would be wise to create what I call strategic alliances. What's a strategic alliance? It's customers with customers. And I don't care whether you're retail. I don't care whether you sell a digital product. I don't care whether you're selling information product. I don't care what it is. You want to find customers with customers because the key to ramping up to 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 figures is to understand how to sell one to many.
Magician, hypnotist, world-renowned stage speaker, and has reportedly sold over $600 million in products himself. My guest today is the hypnotist, Marshall Sylver. We shot this interview at his lovely 17,000 square foot home in Las Vegas, and we cover some awesome things. We will talk about doubling and tripling your price points and the impact that can have on your business and when it's a good thing and when it's a bad thing. We will talk about how to hypnotize someone into going on a first date with you so you can marry them later. And we will talk about the role in hypnosis in personal life and business. This is a super dynamic interview. Marshall is a tremendously entertaining, charismatic character, and there are tons of lessons to get out of this. I hope you enjoy listening to it as much as I enjoyed shooting it. So I was in a conversation last night with huge payment guys. Like these guys, one of them has done $1 billion exit. One of them's running a company that size currently. That's his. He was the founder. The other's like a hired gun CEO that has run several of them. Huge. And we were talking about our portfolios. One of the things that you get in payments is you get people that sign up, set up accounts, and never use them. So we have monthly minimums that just bill people if they don't use the account. Yeah. And almost the entire industry does this. And they were talking about that being a revenue stream. And I was like, I don't fucking want that revenue stream. You know, I don't want those.
You don't want to profit on the breakage.
No, I don't want those people on the books.
Right.
Like, why are they there? If they might be using the account in the future and they want to keep it open until then, okay. But we proactively talk to those people and say, hey, your account's open. You haven't used it in 12 months. You still want it? You know? Because I don't want that. And what I also don't want is later for them to realize that and come back and be upset.
Right.
Like life is too short.
Right.
Right.
I agree.
It's how do you make the wins for everybody? So I'm very much with you. And I think that if you set expectations appropriately on the front end, you don't have problems in the back end.
No, and it's that lack of disclosure.
Yes.
Again, too much of our industry, whether it's information marketing or live seminars or internet marketing or products sold digitally, too much of it is shady. And too much of it is bad products.
No question.
You know, I've been in this business for 40 years. Mm-hmm. And over 40 years, I've seen it all. And having been attacked myself, there's no gray. It's black or it's white. And so I won't say, and nobody on my behalf will say anything from the platform or in any marketing that there's any gray to. And if they do, it's done. I don't want to work with you. Yeah. I don't do gray.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that part of the question for me often in life is it malicious or ignorant?
I don't think it's either. I think it's greedy. No, I think it's greedy. I think that they're the people that catch themselves in positions like that. I think what they're hoping for is that it's overlooked or that people forget. You know, it's kind of like what you just said, this monthly minimum, and you saying, I don't want it, yet other companies saying they want it. For other companies, that breakage, if they have 50 or even 100 accounts that aren't using the account, but
or thousands.
Or thousands paying, $100 or $5 or whatever it is every month, then they just look at it as bottom line profits.
Yep.
And whereas you're saying, I don't want that money.
Yeah.
We didn't earn the money.
Yep.
I understand people setting up an account before they need it.
Yep.
But if they realize after 12 months they've never used the account, hey guys, we're going to turn this off if you don't use it.
Yep.
We don't want to charge you every single month.
Yep.
And I think that's the bigger thing that most people don't do. I don't think it's malicious. I just think it's greedy. I just think, what would the minimum be on an account that's not used?
Somewhere between, $30 and $100.
So $100
Yep.
max.
Yep.
$100.
Yep.
$1,200 a year.
Right.
And it's like, if somebody really needs that $1,200, if it's a make or break on their company, don't trust the company.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a vendor for a different type of thing. We were selling it for a while. It was subscription based. I called the owner up who I knew and I said, I'd like to cancel these 20 accounts. And they were charging us $500 per month for each account. So it's 10
Wow,
grand.
yeah.
10 grand. And I called up the owner and I said, you know what? This isn't working out. We'd like to cancel it. Oh, yeah, don't worry about it. We'll cancel it. And so I don't think anything about it. 10 months later, I come across the bookkeeping on it. And my bookkeeper says, yeah, you know, what is this? And I said, that was canceled 10 months ago. Personal phone call directly to the owner. And he said, they've been charging us every month. And so I reached out to the owner and he goes, oh, I don't remember that conversation.
Ugh.
And my response was, are you serious?
Right.
You don't remember the conversation? I don't remember that conversation. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to even charge it back. I'm not going to battle with it, you know, over it, except realize you'll never have me as a customer again.
Right.
And so was it worth it?
Right.
You know, should I decide later on that we want to do something in a bigger way? You stepped over dollars to pick up pennies.
Yep.
And I think that's the bigger challenge. And I think that people that make a lot of money don't do that. They just don't. People that make big bucks, they go, let it go, cut it loose. If this is a problematic customer and they're demanding a refund or they're threatening in any way, give them a refund instantly. Mm-hmm. Because ultimately, that's the biggest thing that gets people in the training space or in the information marketing space. That's what gives them the greatest grief, is either ego or it's not right or the unfair. You know, that customer took goods and services and now they don't want to pay for them. There's a percentage of people that do that.
Yeah.
You know, it's that breakage. It's not recognizing you're going to have that breakage. Put it into the account, put it into the spreadsheet, know that the end and the year that you're not going to have that, and then you don't sweat it. You don't worry about it.
Well, I know it's not unique to the information marketing space, and I think it really is a mentality. And where I was going with ignorant versus malicious is I think that mentality gets misinterpreted when people are getting started in business versus later. So if you talk to a strategist who has a big business, and rightfully so, they're focused on strategy and they're talking about sort of the mechanics and the KPIs that make the business work. People that are brand new hear a message of like, oh, just increase the cost of your product and you'll increase your
margin.
LTV,
Right.
Or your margin, right? And at scale with larger businesses, there is a use case for that. And when you're brand new, I just saw somebody do this the other day. And they said, I was selling a $10,000 product and I just increased it to 20. And immediately I thought, but what did you add to the product? And the answer was nothing. Okay, so is that worth it? And to me, you missed the message, right? You missed the point. And so when I think about the mindset associated to that whole process, I think that's where it lives, right? Is what do you spend time focused on? And
I think there's another component to that, though.
Okay.
So the person selling this thing for $10,000 and they don't change anything, but they sell it for 20. If they don't make a hiccup, if it doesn't change sales much or at all, if it doesn't diminish anything, then they were underpriced in the beginning. And since I believe people vote with their wallets and they commit with their wallets, somebody that commits to the same thing at $10,000 versus $20,000, that $20,000 commitment is a different level of commitment.
I agree.
It's twice the commitment.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. My biggest challenge with it is that, especially earlier on in business, but in general, they don't find out for 6-8 months, right? So they don't find out until you run the course of the product.
Maybe, except I think they find out right away. And the reason I say this is I had that same example. Many years ago, I was performing on the Strip in Las Vegas, and I'm making $80,000, $100,000 a week, working 5 nights a week, working 75 minutes a night, doing what I love. Good living.
Love it.
I get this Chinese guy that comes into my show one night, and he says, "You're amazing. You biggest infomercial in all of China." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, y'all infomercial on all the time." And I said, "Well, that's weird. I didn't know I was running in China." Turns out a firm over in China took my infomercial. They overdubbed all the English into Chinese. They took my products, duplicated them in Chinese, and they were selling them. And it was the highest selling product they had in all of their product brands. So first and foremost, I said, "You know what? I forgot who we were working with over there. Who's the promoter?" And I called the promoter up and I said, "Do you guys run Marshall Sylver's infomercial?" "Oh yeah, that's our best show." And I said, "Where are you sending those commission checks? Because I didn't get any royalties." Gulp. So, they sent a couple payments. Then the guy said, "We'd like to bring you over to China for 10 days. You do your show at night, do your lectures during the day." And this is 1999. So this is a long time ago. And I said, "What language do they speak in China?" He said, well, they speak Chinese. And I said, I don't speak Chinese. He said, we'll use an interpreter. I said, I don't think hypnosis will work through an interpreter. He said, we pay you $50,000 a day, 10 days straight, $500,000 up front. I said, I think it'll work just fine. It'll work just fine. And so I went back and I did it. When I told the boss over at the casino that I was going to go do this gig, they canceled my show. And I know why they canceled my show. The entertainment director knew that if I went over to China and made $50,000 a day, I wasn't coming back.
Right.
And so they were kind of threatening me, trying to leverage me to stay and do the show and not go. So at any rate, I come back from China and I don't have a gig. And my philosophy is you take a bad gig until a good gig comes along. You got nothing going on, do something. You know, it's the salesperson that whines, we don't have enough inbound calls. Well, if your phone isn't ringing, you pick it up. You make those outbound calls. And so one of the opportunities I had is Ron LeGrand, if you know who that is.
Oh, sure, yeah.
The real estate instructor. Everybody's daddy.
Yeah.
Ron LeGrand calls me up and he said, I heard you're a good hypnotist. I said, you heard wrong. He said, what do you mean? I said, I'm the hypnotist. And he said, do you do your show? I said, of course I do a show. He said, what would you charge me for the show? I said, $25,000. He said, oh my God, is that the best you can do? And I said, yes. He said, what if I let you get on stage and lecture the next day? And I said, I'd let you pay me another $25,000. And he said, no, you don't understand. You do your show, come back the next morning, do a lecture for 90 minutes, sell whatever you want to sell and keep all the money. And again, I believe take a bad gig until a good gig comes along. I didn't have any gig. I said, if you'll pay my expenses, I'll come back and do the deal. So I go back and the show, of course, rages. We do a great job with the show. I come back and I do the lecture the next day, and there's 1,000 people in the room that have all paid $1,000 a piece to be there to learn real estate investing strategies. So when I offer up my training at the time, I offered it up for $500. And when I close, 800 people leap out of their chairs, race back to the back table and sign up. I'm thinking, I just crushed it. I did great. Ron LeGrand's standing at the back of the room with his arms crossed, and he's looking around the room, and I can tell he's pissed. And I said, are you mad that you're not taking a split? He said, no, I'll get some next time. I said, you don't look happy. He said, no, you screwed my whole weekend. And I said, what do you mean? He said, you didn't charge enough.
Oh. He
said, you charging $500 now when I make my offer, it's going to look like I'm overcharging. You will never do that again in front of one of my audiences. And so I said, okay. The next time he had me back, I charged $9.95 for the same offer. We didn't lose any sales at all. Same percentages, about 80% of the room. Come back again, $1,500. No change. Same 80% of the room. $2,000. No change. 80% of the room. $2,500. 70% of the room. So I knew that sweet spot of $2,000 worked. So my point in all of that is I wasn't charging enough. Number one. And number two, my own belief is, especially in our space, in the seminar space, in the education space, not only do people vote with their wallet, they commit with their wallet. So we end up with a better quality of student that invested $2,000 versus that one that invested $500. We have an inner circle program that I've been teaching for, 35 years now. And originally, 35 years ago, it was $30,000. Now it's a $60,000 package for one person, or if you're a couple, it's $102,000 for the couple. And the results that we get now versus what we got when it was 30, night and day.
Because you have committed people.
We've got committed people. And not only that, not only are they committed, they're in a room where everybody else is committed too. And so I tell my students, often you will lose sales because you don't charge enough. You will lose sales because people will say, your mastermind's only $10,000. Well, this company over here charges 30, and that one 40, and that one 50.
So they must be better.
How good could you be?
Exactly.
Yes. And not that it is any better. That $10,000 mastermind may be way better than the $100,000 mastermind. Except that's not what the consumer does initially. Initially, they say you would charge what it was worth.
So, look, I totally agree with you on this, and I think there's an interesting consideration around pricing in general, and you illustrated that beautifully. You definitely establish quality through price mentally, right? I went to buy sunglasses yesterday in some shop in a Vegas casino, like an idiot.
Good luck.
And I had a price range of what I was going to spend, and I knew that they were going to be egregiously expensive. But I pick up a pair, and for me, the rule in life right now is if I don't love it, fuck it. Like I have to love it, right? So I'm trying them on and they're all like, okay. And then I find one pair, I put them on and they're great. and I don't know the brand. And I put them on, they're great. And I look down at the tag and it is almost 4 times the cost of what,
of course,
of the already expensive budget in my head. Right. And that established the value of the brand for me.
Yes.
I didn't know the brand, but I knew if they were priced this way, this is a brand that is, good or whatever.
Yes.
Now, sometimes that's total nonsense and totally contrived. And sometimes it is a product of how good the thing is. But I think those are good lessons for people.
Well, and I also think in this space that it's not just the price. It certainly is the reputation.
Yeah.
It certainly is the reputation of the people who have bought previously. It certainly is a process of what were the results and are they provable? Can you show me case studies of other people who have invested in this program? And then ultimately, is there a risk reversal to the consumer? Can the consumer look at that and say, okay, how can you guarantee me results? And since we can't guarantee results, nobody in the education space can guarantee any result. And the reason we can't actually guarantee a result is we can't guarantee the consumer will do what we tell them to do.
Sure.
And that's one of those gray areas. Oh yeah, we guarantee you'll produce a result. What if they just sit like a bump on a log?
That's a result.
That's a result.
Right.
And so that's not the result you want. And that person is guaranteed going to not do anything.
Yeah.
Or a high percentage of them are not going to do anything.
Yeah.
And so both for the consumer's sake and also for my company's sake, we don't offer a guarantee that's not based on performance. In other words, you have to do a minimum in order for you to qualify for that money back guarantee.
This, then
if you do that, if you do what we tell you to do and don't produce the result, that's on us.
Yeah.
But if you don't do anything, that's on you.
Yeah, totally agree with you. I like that approach. When you said earlier, when people spend more, they have more commitment, and then they have better results because they have more commitment. Do you think that it is that they spent more, or do you think that it is that the person who spends more has a different value set and drive to execute?
No, I don't. And here's the reason I don't. We have people, I just had a 22-year-old guy who came to one of our events, came to one of our foundational events called Turning Point. I've been teaching Turning Point for 40 years.
Wild.
And it's a 2.5-day event. And he came to the event, and within the first hour and a half, he approached me on the first break, and he said, "Are you going to make any offers?" I said, "Of course." And he said, "What's your biggest offer?" I said, "My biggest offer is $60,000. He said, "I'm in." And he's 22. And I said, "You heard me right, correct? It's $60,000. He said, "Yeah." He said, "I only have $58,000 in my bank account." He said, "But I'll figure out a way to come up with the other $2,000. So this is every dime he has.
Right.
So this isn't that he's got a lot of money and so it's not a big deal.
Right.
This is every dime he has. He comes through the program and within literally 2-3 weeks has made all of his money back because he was willing to do exactly what I told him to do.
Right.
Unlike somebody else who might already have a substantial amount of money, have a certain amount of ego involved and think they know it all. And I give them a directive and they go, maybe I'll check that out. Somebody that's more desperate, it has to work. Again, I get it. When I was 23 years old, I bought a product for $3,000. It was every dime I had. It was my rent money. It was my car payment. Everything had to be foregone in order for me to make that investment. Mm-hmm. And that investment's come back as almost $700 million in my career because I was 100% at stake. So I actually think it's the reverse. I think it's not just the dollar amount. I think it's that it has to work. It's that, if you have a lot of eggs, you can put them in a bunch of baskets.
Yeah.
But if you don't have very many eggs,
Yep.
you better put them all in one basket and protect the basket.
Yeah.
And that's what that is. So, I obviously I'm a hypnotist, and we have people inside of our seminars. Our primary students are real estate investors. And part of that has to do with the fact that I've been training through Ron LeGrand. He was the first one.
Yeah.
I've been training inside the real estate investment industry for almost 40 years. The second group of people that we have are small business owners or mid-sized business owners. And the reason is my forte is helping people find hidden revenue. The most expensive thing any business has is customer acquisition. Mm-hmm. And once they have the customer, too many times people are myopic about their approach to their business. So I
don't think I really know that word.
Myopic means...
I hear it a lot, but I don't think I know it.
You don't know it.
Yeah.
Or you don't accept it.
I need you to explain it.
So myopic means a single vision.
Okay, got
so
it.
I'm a dentist, and all I think about is the dental work that people do. Or I'm a realtor, and all I think about is selling houses. And if I sell houses, man, I better have a good relationship with a furniture supplier, because that new homeowner is going to need to furnish the house. And I really should have a good relationship with a moving company, because chances are the person that bought that house for me is going to need to move. And if they're going to need to move, they're my customer. I might as well make a little bit of profit from that. And so there's so many things that can be added to the mix that will make a difference of night and day for that business. Amazon is a good example. I was just telling this story earlier today at my event that many years ago I was golfing and I was listening on a transistor radio. And if you're young, a transistor radio was this little box with an antenna on it. And I'm listening on a transistor radio, and they're doing a talk show, and they're talking about how Amazon has lost billions of dollars with a B. And the first thing I thought was, how great would it be to have a business that you could lose billions of dollars and still be in business? That was the first thing I thought.
And that's part of the business model, but keep going.
Well, that's life.
Yeah.
That really is life. And I think so many people don't realize you're going to lose. Yeah. And if you have an investor or a business owner that tells you they've never lost money, I'll show you a liar. They're just lying, or they're not paying attention, or they're in denial, or they're framing it.
Or they're not taking big swings, right?
They're probably lying.
Yeah,
they're probably lying.
Probably.
So at any rate, Amazon shortly after that switched and started making money. What was the switch? Well, in the beginning, all they sold was books. And then at one point, Bezos realizes we are not in the book selling business. We're in the distribution business.
Yeah.
So let's sell everything.
Yeah.
And when they started selling everything, they started making money.
So, okay. So the
phrase is, we should sell them something.
Yeah. So, well, look, first off, there is a book called The Everything Store, which is the story of Amazon, which is very good, worth reading. But the problem with that for most people at many stages of business is it turns into shiny object syndrome. And instead of people going deep in the direction that is valuable to them to clearly articulate the core value of one product and the client experience in that one product, or however you want to phrase it, they spread themselves thin and push many different products. Now, before we got started, you told me a little bit about your model, which is basically that you are offering a service to existing businesses where you fulfill the whole service.
Yes.
So that makes sense to tack it on. But foregoing that, and maybe you don't have to forego that, maybe you can weave this in, but when does it make sense for a business owner to say, hey, you know what? I need to start going horizontal and adding other elements, complementary third-party services, versus just let me sell this one thing and go?
From the beginning.
You think so?
I do. And here's why I think from the beginning. Real estate investment or any kind of a business training education is a good example. Ron LeGrand and many of the people, Robert Allen, Russ Whitney, and many of the people that were in the business when I first launched my business would have told you they wished all of their students would study with me first. Because you can teach somebody all the strategies in the world about investing in real estate. You can show them how to cram the numbers, how to, take a look at a property. At the end of the day, though, you can't make them make offers.
Right.
At the end of the day, you can't make them actually follow through and finish the process.
Right.
At the end of the day, you can't make them get over the fact that their first deal they lost their butt on.
Right.
And if they lose their butt on their first deal, they're probably not doing a second deal. Oh, real estate investing doesn't work. So my belief is that everybody would be wise to create what I call strategic alliances. What's a strategic alliance? It's customers with customers. And I don't care whether you're retail. I don't care whether you sell a digital product. I don't care whether you're selling information product. I don't care what it is. You want to find customers with customers, because the key to ramping up to 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 figures is to understand how to sell one to many. Yeah. This podcast is one to many. You're here in my home in Las Vegas. We call this place Prosperity Palace. 17,000 square feet. We sit on an acre and a half. This is my primary residence. My other residence is a home on the beach in San Diego, Carlsbad, which I know you're headed to shortly.
Next week, man.
There's no better place, in my opinion, in the United States than Carlsbad, California.
Well, if you're there next week, I want to try that cold plunge on your porch.
Come check out the cold plunge.
I'm in, man.
Yeah, we got a cold plunge coming in here any day. I love the one we got at the beach house so much. I ordered one for here. Except I'm 6'1". You're tall. What are you, 6'3"?
6. No, I'm 6.
You look taller. It's the mohawk.
It is the mohawk. A couple inches.
And so the plunge that I got to really work to get down into.
Yeah.
And I like to go all the way up to my chin.
Yeah.
I like my ears touching the water.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's remarkable. So the one we're getting for here, I said, okay, I like the cold plunge. I'd like more space.
Yeah.
And I also, the one that we have doesn't have any jets inside of it. So I found the company that does cold plunges for the NFL.
Dude, jets radically change the experience because you have moving water in the cold.
It's different.
Yes, a static water in the cold, you build like the heat from your body creates a little insulation around you at some point.
You haven't spent much time in a cold plunge, have you?
Oh, I've spent a lot.
Okay.
A lot.
Well, then I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, like
I haven't experienced that yet.
Well, here's the thing. If you were in a cold plunge that has jets and you turn them off, it is so much more tolerable than if you keep the jets on.
I'll have to check that out.
So much more tolerable.
I mean, you got me thinking now because I hadn't thought about that.
Radically different.
You know, and funny thing about cold plunges, my experience, I love it. I absolutely love it. I'll do it 6 days, 7 days a week, given the choice. My thing about cold plunges, I love them. I like to be in the plunge a long time. I like to set it at 55 degrees. Some people like to go colder.
Yeah.
I like 55 for 12 and a half to 15 minutes.
Okay.
So I like to be in there a long time. I like to feel my core completely drop.
Got it.
My thing about it is I love it. When I get out, I feel awesome.
Yep.
And I've never had anything in my life that I knew I was going to feel amazing about afterwards, that I really liked the experience. I've never had anything that was so hard to do every day. That every day I have a program. I get in the jacuzzi, I get in the spa for 15 minutes.
Yep.
I go on the cold plunge for 15 minutes. I go into the infrared sauna for 20 minutes. I go back in the cold plunge for another 7.5 minutes. And then I finish on that. If I'm going to work out, then I go work out or I go play racquetball, whatever it is after that. Except every single time I get into the spa at the beginning of the cycle, I'm sitting in there and I have to talk myself into getting into the cold plunge.
Regret it, yeah.
Every single day.
Yeah.
And one of my tricks that I use, and this is good for anything, frankly, is that some is better than none.
Yes.
And so I'm sitting in the spot and I'm going, oh man, you know it's going to be cold in the plunge. And I say, okay, don't do the plunge today then. Just put your foot in. Or just get in for 40 seconds. Because I don't know if you count the amount of time it takes you to get kind of acclimated. For me, it's a count of 40. So by the time I count to 40, I know I'm going to stay. And I know that I can get to 40 every single time. So I get in the cold plunge and I count 1, which is about a second and a half. 2, 3. By the time I'm at 40, I say, okay, go to 100. All right, now go to 180. That's going to be 3 minutes, 4.5 minutes. Just keep counting. But I've never had something that was so good for me that took me consistently so much to talk myself into getting into.
Beyond a Million is brought to you by Easy Pay Direct. If you're an entrepreneur and you are still using a product like Stripe or PayPal to accept payments, it is time to find out why the largest names in your industry would never consider doing that. Check out easypaydirect.com/BAM to find out more.
So this is a lovely transition because you are the hypnotist, as it turns out. And
yeah, just because I told you I was.
Exactly. And this is a sort of, it's like magic.
Yes.
Those words.
It's real magic.
Well, and so those words are loaded, confusing, subjective for most of humanity, and misunderstood, perhaps. Yes. In prep for talking to you, I looked at kind of a bunch of different things that you train on, teach on, how you approach things. We have several mutual friends, and I want to talk about just hypnosis in general, but ultimately there is the underlying thing here. When I walked in the door, you said, well, when I decide that I want to stop doing something, I'm a hypnotist. I can just stop doing it.
Yep.
And so that there's a conflict in my mind of that approach versus every time I get in front of that fucking cold plunge, I have to bait myself into doing it. And so I want to know how you approach those things and how hypnosis comes into that picture. So let's get there, but let's start with, what the fuck is hypnosis?
Yeah. Hypnosis is the non-critical acceptance of ideas or concepts on a subconscious level. In layman's terms, I say, you do, no question. Very Karate Kid. Ultimately, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, though. All learning is self-learning. I'm not able to program somebody that isn't allowing me to program them, and they don't have to consciously allow me to program them. I can be subtle, I can be covert, I can go around a roundabout and figure out what their values are and frame what I'm doing in their frame so that they do respond. Except the challenge is people can still resist. If you plugged your ears and closed your eyes and went, nah, I'm going to have a hard time getting to you.
Sure.
I'm going to have a hard time influencing you. My wife, you just met my wife, Erica, on the way in. You met my 3 kids. My wife was in an audience in Boston 17 years ago, and there were 1,000 people in the room. And I'm walking up the aisle, and I see this beautiful woman 4 rows back on the inside aisle. And I said, okay, I'm hypnotizing that girl to ask me out on a date. And I get on the platform, and you got to qualify prospects before you close them. So the first thing I said is, who here is single and would love to create an awesome, passionate relationship? Put your hand up, say, oh yeah. She didn't put her hand up, just smiled. I said, who here is in a relationship and wants more passion in that relationship? Not only did she not put her hand up, she also looked away from me. The cold read, because we teach cold reading. We teach how to read body language inside of our events. The cold read was that she was in a relationship and she wasn't happy. So I said, game on, baby. So I go into the audience during the time that I'm teaching the 1,000 people, and without them knowing it and without her knowing it, I hypnotized her to walk up to me on the first break and ask me out on a date. And so, you know, that whole process is a process of communication. And since communication equals wealth, and we only communicate in 2 ways, that process requires 2 things. Number 1, it requires that I'm communicating internally at a level which allows me to perform externally. What do I mean by that? It's the person that goes and buys all these real estate training programs and then never makes an offer on a piece of property. They have all the knowledge. That wasn't what they needed. What they needed was rewire inside of their subconscious mind. The second part is, once you understand what you need to be thinking internally, then you have to be able to communicate that to the outside world in a way the outside world will respond. So my business is the study of semantics, the study of language, and the study of communication. How do you get from point A to point B? What's your outcome? You know, we've already been talking about how do you grow a business. One simple strategy might be me raising my prices. That's all well and good. And you said, yeah, but did you add any value? And so I want to add to that. I 100% agree. Except it doesn't have to be any actual added value. At the very least, it's got to be a perceived added value. Yeah. So on an information marketing standpoint, let's imagine I'm selling a program for $2,000. And I decide, you know what, I'm going to sell it for $3,000. Same exact program. Except what I do is I say you have the ability to reattend this program for a lifetime for $3,000. I haven't really added any value. I gave them an additional option to come back as many times as they want to. 99% of the people that buy the product will never come back more than once. So I haven't really added anything, yet I've added a perceived value to that process. Yeah. And that is what helps people make those buying decisions.
Yeah. No question about it. I mean, that is perfectly illustrated through my stupid sunglass purchase yesterday.
Yes.
I love the glasses, but I also probably love the glasses because I spent too fucking much on it.
Well, you didn't spend too fucking much on it because not only do you have the glasses, now you have a story.
That's true.
Now you have a story.
That's true. And they're great. But here's the thing. When you were talking through this, I think the gap for most people, and for a lot of people, tactics are relevant to grasp strategy. So we can talk strategy and we can talk guided path. But where does the rubber meet the road? How do you execute? And I think taking an example is creating an example, pulling one out, and then picking it apart will help people get it. So in the case of your lovely
wife,
too young for you wife, I think you said as I walked in.
No, I said my knees tweaked. I said, yeah. You said, what's wrong with your knee? I said, I've been chasing my too young wife around.
There we go.
Yeah, Erica's 24 years younger than me because I am the hypnotist. And yeah, well, a couple of things that I believe.
So tell me that path. How did you said I hypnotized her into asking me out.
Yes.
So what are the mechanics of that? And I want to talk about that because I think it's a fun example. And then I want to talk about like a couple other things with hypnosis.
Sure.
As it pertains to business and life, et cetera.
Absolutely. So one of the things we have to understand is that all buying decisions are based first on emotion and then backed up with logic. My Rolls Royce Phantom is parked in the garage, $450,000 automobile. Nobody needs a $450,000 automobile to get from point A to point B.
Nope.
until you've driven one. Then you must have it. Then your brain, just like with the sunglasses, starts to justify. Oh my God, those glasses are so good. Yep. Oh wow, this car is so great. You know, I could pick up clients in this car, and they'd have a deeper perception of my authority if I picked them up in this car. Oh, I could put pictures of this car on my stage and say, look, this is my car. Or I could talk about it in a podcast and, you know, establish that authority. All those things add up to the fact that I simply want to drive a Rolls-Royce Phantom. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is we buy it with emotion, yet we back it up with logic. And so with my wife as an example, what I had to do was you put somebody in a state, then you create an anchor of that state so that when you fire the trigger off later, they're back in that state again. Mm. So as an example, let's imagine you were my wife, Erica, and you're in the audience. And I apologize in advance should you get turned on when I do this. So you're in the audience.
No promises.
I like the mohawk, by the way.
Thank you.
So you're in the audience, and I'm talking.
Who's turned on now?
Exactly. My tongue's hard. So you're in the audience, and I'm talking to the whole audience, and I'm talking to you at the same time. I'm talking to the whole audience, except I'm right beside you. And in a moment, I look you square in the eyes, and I say, there are moments when you see exactly what you want, and you know it's what you want. In fact, it's so close to you, you could reach out and touch it. Just reach your hand out and touch what you want now. And then I address the rest of the audience, but it's already been planted inside of her mind. It's already been language patterns. She can't deny them. She's heard them.
And for anybody that's only listening to this, you are making eye contact with me.
I'm putting my hand out to you.
And you're gesturing to yourself when you say what you want.
Yes, I'm pointing at myself, and I'm saying, you know what you want. Yeah. I'm nodding my head. I'm pointing at myself. And the thing that people don't realize is we get back what we send out. Mm. So if a lot of people are saying no to you, it's because you're fun to say no to. Mm. Give you an example. I'm doing a demonstration, and I tell the audience, in a moment, I'm going to invite somebody up on the stage, and I'm going to hypnotize them in front of the whole room. Who wants to be that person? Because of the nature of hypnosis, because most people don't understand it, because their perception is you're going to make me bark like a dog or embarrass me in front of the rest of the people, very few people, if any, will put their hand up and volunteer to come forward. Except then I say, in a moment, I'm going to invite one person, just one, to come forward and sit down in that chair, and I'm going to hypnotize them. The person that I select to hypnotize is going to get more than anyone in the room. They're going to walk away with 10 times the level of confidence they had before they joined me on the platform. They're going to walk away empowered, and they're going to walk away knowing it was the greatest thing that could have ever happened in their lives. I charge $60,000 to work one-on-one with an individual. This one person is going to get that offer for free. Only one person. Who's going to be that person? Put your hand up, say, oh yeah. And now 90% of the hands go up.
Right.
Same offer, same exact offer, different frame.
Yeah.
So our job as people of influence is to take what we're selling and make it look like what they want. Nobody wants a drill. Everybody wants a hole. So so to speak. If I'm selling drills without the idea of what it can produce, it's pointless.
Yeah.
Except if I'm pointing out the usefulness of what the drill creates, now the drill is infinitely easier to sell.
Yeah.
So from my own career, here's a great example.
And so hold on, I want to hear this. I want to hear the example, but what I got from that in different language, innuendos extracted.
Yeah, I apologize. It's just
it's fantastic.
If people, sometimes I get criticized because I talk about sex a lot. And I got to tell people, if I talked about sex as much as I thought about sex,
right,
I would never talk about anything else. I never would. I just never would. Listen. Napoleon Hill thought enough about it to devote an entire chapter in Think and Grow Rich to sexual transmutation.
Yes.
I'm the poster child.
Yes.
I really am.
No, that's a whole other podcast, whole other conversation. And it's ridiculous. Yeah, whole other conversation. But what I heard was, relative to selling the whole, was...
Welcome to Las Vegas.
Right. Was selling the benefits around the solution.
Yes.
And the end result, not the features and benefits of the product. And that's a really important distinction for both marketers and salespeople, to recognize that nobody gives a shit about the features and benefits. They give a shit about what it's going to produce.
Yes.
And so your narrative and your time is spent around selling that.
And the unique marketing proposition. Because you have to address that. You have to acknowledge whether you're selling merchant processing services or whether you're selling education or car, it doesn't matter what you're selling. You've got to figure out what is the unique marketing proposition. So I'll give you an example. A lot of times will share the stage with Tony Robbins. And obviously, Tony is the most well-known motivational speaker in history. I cannot compete with that. Not today, at least. I cannot compete with that. So if Tony gets on stage and I get up after Tony, which often is the case, they bring Tony out because he attracts a crowd. They bring me out because I sell things. If Tony gets on stage, as he did at a recent event, gets on stage and I'm getting on stage to sell a seminar for $1,000. Tony gets on stage and offers up his seminar totally free. He's Tony freaking Robbins. I'm Marshall Sylver. So he offers up his seminar for free. I'm offering up a similar program for $1,000. Who's going to win? Well, unless it's framed properly, Tony's going to win. So I have to understand what I'm dealing with. I have to address all of the elephants in the room. So in this example, I get on stage and I have to address two things. Number one, how am I different than Tony Robbins? I got to address that. Number two, why in the world would they want to plunk $1,000 cash down on me when Tony just offered something similar for free? So the first thing I say is I'm often asked, how am I different than, say, Tony Robbins or T. Harv Eker or Dean Graziosi or any of these other trainers or speakers? And here's the distinction. I don't just teach. I program on a subconscious level. Because it's not enough for you to learn. You must become someone new to produce a new result. So if you've bought other books and tapes or programs at some other time, I don't want to say now, don't want to anchor it to the present moment. I've got to anchor it to some other time. And I point away from myself because I don't want to point it to me. If you've bought other books and tapes and programs at some other time and you haven't used them, I'm here to protect the investment you've made in all those other programs. Because part of my job is reading their mind. And one of the things they're thinking, I've already bought all these seminars and none of them worked. Yeah. I need to help them understand, here's the reason. Now they're all going to work. Yeah. Now let me address the second part. Tony was free. And my question to the audience might be something like, who here realizes you get what you pay for? And everybody puts their hand up. Who here realizes, and I say it with a twinkle and a smile because they know what I'm talking about at this point, who here realizes if you sign up for a free seminar, it's a 90% chance you're not even showing up. Who here realizes if you invest in the seminar, you probably are more likely to show up. And then I put a kicker in on top of all of that. I say, how many of you believe if you had paid $1 million to be in the seat you're in right now, you would be taking better notes? So there's going to be unlike Tony, who gave a very gracious offer to allow you to attend his program for free, mine is not going to be free, except I guarantee you'll pay better attention. I've justified it. I've not insulted Tony. No. I've not badmouthed anybody. I've just said, this is the reason it's your benefit to pay me $1,000.
Yeah. So, there are so many fucking lessons out of that. And there's so many ways that, so many directions that I could go with this. But I think that one of the things that bothers me in life, period, but as an entrepreneur also with people that I have to work with or choose to work with, I guess it's really always choose to work with, is that people perceive me to have a tremendously high level of attention to detail and almost pedantic at times. And I can see the eye rolls and I can see the fucking, he's on this like words matter shit again. Literally, that's the language I hear. Yeah, right. I know words matter. And the lesson that I want everybody listening or watching to hear is that they do fucking matter.
Everything matters.
And the way that you point, the words that you use,
the tone of your voice,
the presuppositions,
the way you tilt your head, the color of the clothing you're wearing,
all of this shit.
Yep.
And I think it's important to, because words matter, some people latch on to certain words more than others. And so when you're in the frame of personal development or maybe hypnosis, etc., that language seems fluffy to people sometimes. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's, generally speaking, important and relevant to say what structures can we latch onto with this. But the structure that I want the A-type data analysts to hear with that, because those are the ones that reject this idea or that are like, yeah, okay, fuck off. But what I want them to hear is the points, the words, etc., are there with deliberate choice. And they're there because they have a purpose and a meaning. And just because you don't understand it yet doesn't mean that it's not relevant.
So you're in data processing.
I mean,
one decimal makes a difference.
Ideal. Yeah, ultimately I am, yes.
Well, you are. That's
For sure.
That's your business.
Yeah.
And so anybody that's in a financial business, you better have your details proper.
100%.
So that's not a surprise, number one, that you're in that business, or number two, that you recognize the power that everything matters. You've got to play every ace. I will go one step further, at the risk of our friendship, actually.
You got to play your twos also and know when to play them.
Yes.
Right?
But I will also tell you, though, at the risk of our friendship, you're sensitive. No, I mean that. And here's what I mean by that. You said, I speak, and here he goes with the freaking word thing again.
Yep.
And you see the eyeballs roll.
Yep.
Immediately, your brain says, because their eyeballs are rolling, they think I'm full of crap. They think this is stupid. This is airy-fairy, new agey nonsense.
Yep.
And maybe that's not why their eyeballs are rolling. Maybe their eyeballs roll when they consider things. Maybe the whole concept of their eyeballs rolling is them looking in their memory banks for some validation to uphold what you've told them. And so people that are extremely effective, we have highly assumptive ideas. And I'm sure you have highly assumptive attitude in everything. It might be that one area when you're speaking and when you're training. And I get a sense you probably, like myself, a bit ADD. I get a sense you probably are a bit of a perfectionist, and that you have a very low intolerance for people that are incompetent, and it just pisses you off to no end. Am I right?
Yeah, you're a little bit.
Well, I am.
We've hit some things there.
Yeah, I am. I look at people that are doing stupid things, and I roll my eyes. And I'm not rolling my eyes because I don't believe them. I'm rolling my eyes. I'm going, what the heck?
Yeah.
Do you really think that would ever work?
Yeah.
And they do.
Yeah.
They actually think it will work.
Yes.
I'm of the nature that we have exactly what we're supposed to have based on what we do.
Okay.
That we get back what we send out. So if you don't have enough money, you're doing things that don't attract more wealth. If you want more money, figure out how to serve them.
100%. Look, I agree with all this, and I appreciate the psychology lesson.
Are we still
here.
friends?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Dude, you're spot on with a lot of that.
Good.
So appreciate the psychology lesson there. And there are a ton of things that I think are interesting. I could tell a shitload of stories on this, but I know also that I'm going to miss my flight if I don't leave. So I want.
Oh, you're flying commercially?
Oh, God.
Oh, brother, I'm so sorry.
You want to fly me back to Austin?
I don't.
We can do that
no,
too.
I don't. I feel bad for you though. I usually don't even let people use foul language in my home, like commercial flights. So I must like you.
Yes. Well, so there are so many directions that I would like to go with that, but no time.
Well, we'll have to do a second interview down on the beach.
I'm in
from the cold plunge.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
Let's do another one.
I love that. So for the sake of time, I don't even know that I can ask you other questions now because they're going to go too fucking long. So if people want to know more about you, because here's the thing, we hit on hypnosis, we hit on different ways that it weaves into personal or business life in some explicit and some not explicit ways. We talked a lot about business lessons and business models that are helpful, but navigating the programming of yourself, we didn't hit on.
Right.
And it's super, super, super important. And I kind of dipped my toe in it a couple times.
Yep.
But one of the and you hit on it a couple times, but one of the most significant challenges in life is, for smart people, is recognizing what you're supposed to do and then not getting yourself to do it. And so many people fail on that front. Weight, financial execution, relationships, etc.
You brought me a nice bottle of wine and a bottle of tequila as a gift when you walked through the door. And then I said, hey, would you like some water? And you said,
I would like tequila.
I would like tequila. I wanted to be sure I could share that. You said, I'd like some tequila, man. I've been working my butt off. I just like some tequila. And I said, I quit drinking July 12th. I quit drinking just because I decided I'd had enough. I had my share. I had your share. I had their share. I had everybody's share. I've had a phenomenal life. Now I have 3 younger kids. I've got a 12, a 10, and an 8-year-old. I've just had enough. I'm not dissatisfied. I'm not missing out on anything. I don't say, oh my God, that tequila smells so good. I wish I could have some.
You did kind of do that.
Well, it does smell good. It does smell good. And I appreciate that.
Yes.
I'm married to a perfect wife. Best decision I ever made. That doesn't mean I don't like other boobs.
Yes.
I like boobs.
Everybody likes boobs.
Well, it's from childhood.
Yes, it is.
It is survival, baby. So at any rate, For me, and then you kind of asked about, well, if you could just flip the switch on whether you want to drink or not, what about the cold plunge?
Yep.
Yeah, if I wanted to flip the switch and I thought it was that important, then I just would do it. And I always get in the cold plunge. If I go out with the intention of doing my routine, I get in the cold plunge every day. There are days, though, where I realize I got to get in the cold plunge and I have to talk myself into it. And it's not that it's something that's difficult. I can just snap my finger. I just realize that's what's going on. That's the first step. You said, because you're a person of excellence and you're a person of performance. When I said I quit drinking in July, you said basically, I've pondered that a bit. I've wondered about that. I get it. I wondered about it my whole life. My challenge was I love tequila.
Yes.
I always loved tequila. I've always loved fine wines. And so I never really saw a reason. I'm coming out of retirement and we're now rolling full bore into what we do. I'm about to launch a broadcast. And I make the distinction between a broadcast and a podcast. I have a history of being in broadcast. From the time I was 17 years old, I did live radio. In 2013, before a podcast was a thing, I did a daily show that was on for 2 hours a day. We gave away $1,000 an hour, 5 days a week.
Love the hook.
Yeah, we gave over $350,000 in cash away in the first year. All $1,000 at a time.
Damn.
Well, it's not hard to get people to do things when you bribe them.
Oh, yeah. No joke. No joke.
So I'm getting ready to do a broadcast, which will be a live broadcast. Because one of the things I believe is that as technology changes and circumstances change, so do people's desires. And podcasts like this one have phenomenal content. The challenge, in my opinion, with a podcast is even well-intended people knowing, again, like the cold plunge, how good it's going to be when they listen to it, how great the information will be, because of their own weaknesses, they may not get around to listening. They may not get around. They downloaded it already. They already subscribe. They may not get around to listening to it. Whereas I know if it's live and there's a cash gift every day involved, I have a higher likeliness of getting them to engage at least once live, if not more than once live. And by the way, we're going to give the cash away in a unique fashion that every day when people call in, the 5 or 6 or 7 calls that we get, at the end of the show, we'll list the calls. Sam called in asking how to save his marriage. John called in asking how to invest in real estate. Susie called in, wanting to know how to grow her business, so on and so forth. At the end of the show, I'll say, hey, we had all these calls. Now it's your turn to vote on whose call brought you the most value. Tomorrow on the show, we'll disclose who got the most votes and who's going to get the cash. Go to the website, vote for your favorite call. Well, when they go to the website, what do they have to do?
Opt in.
They have to opt in.
Yeah.
We have to be sure that they're a legitimate person.
Yeah.
Well, if you got on the show and you talk to me and you want to win the cash, what do you do? Well, you call all your friends and you say, do me a favor, go to this website, vote for me.
Oh, love this.
Yeah, vote for me. And so now the people that have never heard the show go vote for you. They opt in. Now they're getting emails and marketing pieces that say, listen to the show.
Hey, Vince, go do this right now.
Well, and to that point, some people are afraid to share their ideas with other people, afraid somebody like you just did will say, hey, we should do that. I want people.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. That's the point. There's more than enough abundance for everybody.
Execution trumps ideas all the time.
More than that poverty consciousness of not thinking that. Imagine half a dozen people do that.
So let me close this loop because I know that we gotta close here. But back to what we were saying before, it's not worth focusing on the things that aren't driving you forward.
Yes.
And so as you start to move into a place where, and it's hard to do when you're getting things off the ground. Once you have money, once you have security, once you know that like shit would have to go crazy weird for me to be in poverty again.
Yes.
Then it's easier to make these choices. But the reality is once you get there, you have to reprogram yourself to say, listen, I need to consciously not worry about this bullshit. Yes, I'm pissing away money, but I'm pissing it away for the sake of maintaining focus and drive on the next step.
And maybe the frame isn't I'm pissing away money.
Yes, of course.
Maybe the frame is these glasses are worth paying 4 times as much because I bought them in Vegas and they're not just glasses, they're now an experience I had.
So I chose those words deliberately because I think for many people there has to be a step to get there.
Without a doubt.
And so
let's talk about that step.
Okay.
Because you said something very profound, and I would agree that once you have money, everything's easier. You can afford to make mistakes. You can afford to piss away or accidentally, spend money on stuff that doesn't work out or overpay for sunglasses or automobiles. You can afford to do all that. So what does the person that's listening to this podcast or watching the show right now, what do they do if they don't have that money? How do they get started? It's not enough to learn. You got to become someone new. So the question I have for anybody listening or watching is, who were you on the day that you were born? Were you a pauper trying to become a millionaire, or were you a millionaire whose money has not yet been deposited in your bank account? There's a distinction there. If I'm a pauper, I keep thinking, gosh, I sure hope I get lucky. I sure hope I make money. If my brain has accepted, no, I'm a millionaire, it's who I am, then I don't have that anxiety. I don't have all of those tensions. I don't have that desperation.
Right.
What I say is, it's my million. Where is it? I need to keep looking for it. It's my million. And then I start operating in millionaire ways. I don't argue with my cell phone company because they overcharged me $10 on the bill, because I realize I'm worth more than minimum wage. I don't have time to argue about that bill.
Yeah.
And I start doing higher value things.
And it's strategy versus tactics on that. And it's also time and a place.
Yep.
And when does it actually make sense? Because your actual value is only fucking $20 an hour, or your actual value is
500.
Yeah, or thousands, right? And those things tactically are important.
Well, I also think that, you're here, you got a plane to catch.
Yes.
Except you decided out of your busy trip to come on over here, shoot this podcast. And some is always better than none.
Yes.
So sometimes I think people get overwhelmed. Oh my God, I got to do all this stuff to get the man result.
Yep.
Well, you don't have to do it all.
Just
do
fucking
something.
do it. Just fucking do something.
Yeah, do something.
Yes. All right. I love this. Where do you want to point people to find out more about Marshall Sylver if they want to?
Oh, they do. Of course they do. I mean, look at me or listen to me. If they want to check it out, they can go to Sylver, SYLVER.com. I have a bigger gift though. And I'm counting on this being part 1.
Beautiful.
And we'll do part 2 at the beach house.
Oh, we will. Yeah.
I'd like that a lot.
Yeah, I love it.
So here's the gift to all of your listeners, all of your viewers. I will give the first 50 people who contact my office a $3,000 ticket to my foundational course called Turning Point, totally free. All they've got to do is mention your name or the name of the podcast, and we will give them a free ticket. And all they have to do is either call 1-800-92-POWER during business hours, or they can shoot an email to AC, like in cool, AC at certaintyinc.com, and say, I want a free ticket to Turning Point. I listen to the show.
I love it, man. I love it. Marshall Sylver, until next time.
Awesome stuff.
Love it. I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I enjoyed doing it. I need your help. There are 3 places you can find Beyond a Million. The podcast itself, beyondamillion.com, which has some cool free resources, including a free course. And we finally launched the Beyond a Million YouTube channel. I would love it if you would go there and subscribe. And if you don't want to, you still would probably enjoy seeing the visual content. Check it out, youtube.com/@Beyond a Million.